Making your own film is probably one of the most exciting ideas that any creative can have. The even thought of it was once considered too expensive and only professionals could do, but now with all of the tech that's at our disposal, it isn't such an unreachable goal. Now that wasn't the case back in 2012, after all the smart tech was still in its infancy. But I did it, and I created Fog Island, a feature horror slasher, over the space of a few months with a cast that I assembled from Facebook and using equipment that I'd sourced from some mates. I hired a cinema and showed it on Halloween 2012, over 2 performances of which completely sold out. Now, Fog Island, no resemblance to the film from the 1940s, was aimed to be a fun homage to some of mine and my brother Gary's favourite classics, from Friday the 13th to The Burning, so it was all pretty fun and tongue-in-cheek. But the biggest horror of all was the making of Fog Island and the regrettable mistakes I made to bring it into existence. In fact, I still bear the scars of that summer of hell 2012 as I battled against every odds conceivable to give birth to this trashy, low-budget slasher flick, which is Fog Island. Now, I vowed I would never put myself in this position again, and so far I have stuck to my guns. So if you are creative and fancy a stab, no pun intended, at making your own film and wonder how easy it can be, keep on watching, because I'm going to share everything I learned to help you avoid making your own Fog Island. Intro. 5. Never make drunken plans. So Fog Island is actually a remake of an earlier film that my brother and I made in the early noughties. Armed with a camcorder and a handful of eager family and friends, we created this improvised horror thriller named Coven Bay. The story we fashioned wasn't completely original, but it was fun. It involved the staff of a radio station being stalked and killed one by one, and featured all the tropes: a masked killer, a handful of murders, a final girl, and a typical Scooby-Doo fashion unmasking. Shit, I've given away the ending. Now, we would film at weekends, and the crew, namely my brother and I, would just ensure that the camcorder was fully charged up, and we finished the film, hired a giant screen, and held a show to the local community with a pie and pea supper. That's a thing here in Northern England. The locals loved every moment of it. People just loved seeing themselves on screen, and we even sold VHS copies to the local community, and it had a little cult following. So fast forward to early 2012, and I had already started to build a foothold in the film industry with writing scripts that got funding, and I made a great short which I'm really proud of called Pocket Thief, and I even had it go direct in a professional shoot with a script that I wrote called Ballerina's Lullaby. But this was all getting very serious, and I started to miss the good old days. I started to miss making horror films with my brother Gary. So, over a drunken night around April 2012, my brother and I decided to join forces once more and revisit our roots and make a gory horror. Now, this would be a remake of Coven Bay, but just bigger and better. We'd use a real radio station this time, but would adopt the same approach with improvisation. Big mistake. We'd use social media, which was still relatively in its infancy, and look out for eager actors who would do it for the love, because there was absolutely no money. I'm talking zero budget here. Now, we had moved on from our battered Super 8 camcorder at this point and had a couple of things in our possession, which was namely a Canon 600D that shot in HD, wahey, and a Rode mic. Now, we had a mate who loved doing gory special effects, so Gary and I clinked our cans to beer together. What could go wrong? So, never make a pact when you're drunk. Ever. Number 4, beware of unreliable cast and crew. Now, I took a career break from my job to immerse myself in this project, and armed with our Canon 600D, that Rode mic, a pair of redhead lights, and access to a YMCA radio station in North Shields, we started the next stage, casting. Sticking to our Coven Bay characters, we advertised on Facebook and got a few responses. There was the slew of the usual case of people tagging other people, but eventually we got so many responses that we held a casting day. And we even asked people to send in video auditions. And this way we got lots and lots of applicants. And to be fair, we got some great people and I was massively impressed. However, one guy didn't turn up for the audition because it turned out he actually lived in India and couldn't travel for the part. Soon we found our lead, Gilly O'Donnell, who would play Nikki Frost, our leading character. Gilly was a super fit bootcamp instructor and a health fanatic who was willing to do her own stunts. We found Shani Williams, who would play her assistant, Michelle. We also found the amazing Thelma Miller, a remarkable elderly character actress who had appeared in lots of television and theatre roles with a real-life soap opera daughter. She played Lily Black, the hapless cleaner, who was revealed to be an unhinged killer.
Boo! Who do you think it was? The Queen?
Shit, another spoiler. However, this is a remake of the original spoiler. We even created new roles such as the disgraced scandal hit DJ Billy Randall, played by comedian Stuart Farrell, and Tabby Fisher, played by pole dancing Natasha Gray. Gary and I were such a big fan of Friday the 13th, we even had our own homage to Crazy Ralph, played by our special effects guy, Wayne Thompson. So wait for it, this one was called Mental Mickey.
It's not safe, you need to leave.
But amongst the gold nuggets who worked hard, we did find some dross. And I mean, these are people who would turn up to film, find out that it was boring, unglamorous, with long days and waiting around, and then proceed not to turn up for any more filming. This meant that I had to start cutting out scenes already filmed, featuring characters who pulled out. I usually give people 2 strikes and then they were for the cutting room floor, giving myself more work in the meantime. With no script and no roadmap, I had to constantly edit in my head to make sure that there was some form of narrative being formed here. And don't get me started on continuity, I started to feel the strain immediately. Now, one of the actors did let me down at the last minute, so I had no choice but to take their part myself. So don't rely on amateur actors who are not getting paid, and always write a script. Lesson 3, Production Hell. So I didn't mention by this stage my brother and I had booked a local independent cinema for the showing. We had a date of Saturday the 27th of October and had started to sell tickets for the premiere already. It was a sellout within days and we even had to book a second showing due to the demand. There was an aftermath party arranged courtesy of a fantastic local burlesque dancer called Bambi Deer. There was so much buzz I even got carried away myself before I realised there wasn't even a film yet. There wasn't even a script. Oops. As the production got underway, the issues went from small cracks to massive chasms of doom, from actors not turning up to even my small crew not making it for the day's filming. Even my brother Gary had periods when he couldn't make it due to poor health, so that meant I had to step in. So that means that I'm doing filming, I'm doing sound, and now I'm also acting too. In some scenes, even the actors had to support, even by me framing the shot, then telling them to just press record, and then usually finding they'd pressed the wrong button at the end of the take. So we had about 4 locations: the radio station, which was filmed in North Shields, my home at the time, which was Nikki's house, my brother's place, which was used for Lily's torture room, and my partner's parents' period house that was used for the outdoor scenes, and then there was the woods in Spennymoor. With long days and being a one-man band for a lot of the time, I had no choice but to kill my character off on screen, just to free up my jobs. So I planned my character's demise, death by garden shears, in a scene in Spennymoor Woods. I think I was victim number 3. So as I was lying there on the forest floor gasping and smeared with fake blood, I remember recalling that time was ticking so fast. There was 6 weeks left and there still wasn't any script or any film. Lesson number 3, do not spread yourself too thin, and always make sure you write a script. Lesson 2, Curse of the Cutting Room. So after a very painful few months of filming, and me weathering the never-ending storm of setbacks and reshoots and dramas with actors, I eventually spotted potential land through the fog. That means I could let the actors get back to their day jobs and in some cases daytime television. It was now 3 weeks before the premiere and I had to get the film edited. I was mindful that the film was an improvised mess and I had to somehow create a narrative from this mess. So next problem, I had no editing experience, I had no software, and we had no musical score. I must have spent over a week doing some hardcore housekeeping and cataloguing the scenes that I'd filmed, going through endless takes to identify which one I liked. Now I was lucky to get a friend to complete the first rough cut of the film, and I was very thankful as it did give me a starting point. It was then I saw the thing from start to finish and it wasn't great, and the third act was definitely the best part of the film. It was now down to me to perform a fine cut, and I was alone again. So apart from buying the occasional sandwich for lunch for some of the crew, I now had to spend some money for the first time on this project. So I had to purchase Final Cut Pro for my Mac, and I still use it to this day. Now I remember a week with hardly any sleep, working on the edit and sitting in that darkened room at 2 AM, sitting bleary-eyed in the glow of the monitor. I used copyright-free music for some of the scenes, but I did compose some original music using GarageBand, which worked quite nicely in my opinion, and it's definitely one of the elements of the film which I do really like. As Fog Island is set in a radio station, I could use my own material as a singer-songwriter that I'd written previously for the DJs to play, no copyright issues there whatsoever. I even got some local bands involved too. Even though I was physically and emotionally exhausted at this point, I do remember feeling some relief as something started to emerge from the mess. When I added music, it did make a difference, and I remember scoring the film and having great fun with those jump scares. And I would say that editing turned out to be something I really did enjoy and still do enjoy, because you don't have to rely on any other people to get the job done. It's all on yourself. Sorry if this sounds so pessimistic, I'm genuinely not that kind of person, but I was seriously world weary at this point. With a mere days before the premiere, I remember the cinema asking if I could take the film in for a test. So that night I had to stay up all night making tweaks, adding titles, all of that jazz. And as the film was to be played from a DVD, I wanted the film shown to feel like an authentic cinema experience, you know, with trailers and a feature presentation opening. Pretentious but good fun. I remember Gary and I watching the final cut hours before I had to give the thing over, and the project was finished, but I can honestly say it was one of the most grueling, stressful experiences of my life. The premiere came and went, and it played to 2 packed showings. We had a local press turn up and hopefully made our cast feel like stars. So I did deliver the goods, but was the goods good? Sadly not. Fog Island fails as an enjoyable experience in my opinion, but the intentions were all there, and looking back after almost 13 years, there are some nice shots and a few scenes I really think do look great, but it's not enough, and I'm also thankful that it set me on the path of something that I really do enjoy, which is editing. You certainly can make a film for nothing. I did it, but I was lucky to have a few people around me to help. I borrowed some nice prime lenses, I got help from that editor friend that I mentioned to do that rough cut, but the rest of it was pretty much me leading the project. Now it's only now that I've felt the urge to talk about it, and there is one reason why this project was doomed. Always write a script. Script is possibly the most important aspect of any film project. It serves as a skeleton, a structure that holds up the project itself. It allows you to focus on the build-up, the characters, the nuances of the action, and of course the climax before you even film. So why did I do that? After all, I'm supposed to be a writer with a few commissions under my belt. Well, it was a cardinal sin by taking off my lens cap with no roadmap. And remember, if you've learned one thing from this mess, it's always write a script. If you are interested in watching my woeful slasher, I will place it in the link down below in the description.
Look what Daddy's got in store for you.
Just don't judge me. Please.